Hi. Testimony. Where to start? Childhood, probably, I suppose. Um, yeah, uh, I was I was born in Liverpool. Um, one of five, four sisters. Um, in my mum and dad's day, it was quite difficult. Um, Blacks and whites were not considered okay in them days to live together according to society, the world. So they had a tough time trying to make it together. And eventually they didn't. My mum, she struggled in her upbringing, and was addicted to every drug that they would pump out there at the time. So at 13, she was a drug addict. My father, I don't think he knew that until quite late on into their marriage. Children, all done and dusted, and eventually they didn't make it, they separated. And we, the children, were put into care. So we were raised in a children's home by Catholic nuns, which, I look back on and it wasn't so bad. Could have been worse, is the way to look at that. Yeah, we went to worship church 3 times a week. In fact, they had a chapel on site in the children's home. And we were raised in the Catholic faith. Sometimes the masses were in Latin. I can't remember it, but I can recite it, and it's quite eerie to remember some of the words today. But yeah, I had a pragmatic upbringing, I guess you could say, in the world. I don't suppose I was awake at the time. I didn't really fully understand, although I had the religion around me and God was taught to me. I didn't really want to know God. I almost rebelled and broke away, if you will. And when I was told I didn't have to go to church anymore, I didn't want to go. So as you can imagine, I went the opposite direction. And at a certain age, I probably say I didn't treat women very well. I wasn't a good young man in that sense. Coming up through a children's home, you had to learn how to use the system. And I did. Education was the system. So I stayed in full-time education, and I managed to get to university eventually. And I met my future wife just before I went there. And I fell in love with her. And I'd say it was the day that I actually fell in love was the day that I saw my first angel. And it was quite a moving experience. And it wasn't just the fact of the angel. I think it was the point of waking up. And for the first time, I'd actually seen the world. And that all came about falling in love with my future wife. There was that moment where for the first time I seen the world. And it was, although it was a great experience to fall in love, it was also it was very hard to accept that was the world. And I could see the world, and I couldn't understand for the life of me how people around me could see the world. With all the pain and the suffering, I'd actually recognized the world for the first time. I even remember going into a bar and almost throwing up because I couldn't go into the bar. Felt sick, terribly sick, that these people around me were so ignorant to what was happening in the world. But like, I suppose everyone else, you just carry on and get on with it, But for the first time in my life, I actually felt different. I recognized I was different. Um, yeah, I left university. I actually was going to become a priest, um, but that didn't work out. That didn't work out. I was going to become a Catholic priest, yeah. But in the end, I didn't, and you know, I went from job to job until eventually I set up my own business, and which was very successful. You know, it was very successful. I got married to, you know, the girl I'd fell in love with. We had our first child, um, and he had cerebral palsy. You know, it was the hospital's fault. But I blamed God at the time, and I fell out with him. I fell out with him for many, many years. I wouldn't talk to him. I had our second child. You know, everything was good for a period. But the business was doing very well, and I became arrogant. I became arrogant about me. I didn't recognize the man in the mirror anymore. No. You know, I knew I was a sinner because of my upbringing. I knew what was required of a child of God, but I didn't feel I was a child of God. No. You know, I just didn't care, if I'm being honest. You know, I'd left my wife. I didn't try and fight for the marriage. It was just easier to sin, if I'm being honest. You know, drink, porn, drugs, women, money. You know, this was how the world was. This was life, and I fitted in. I wasn't a good man. And then one day, many, many years, God took it all away. All of the wealth, overnight. 35 million a year to zero. Oh yeah, he brought me to my knees. He humbled me. He humbled me till I started to recognize the man in the mirror. And I did recognize him again. And I started to see the world again for what it was. An invisible prison. A prison of sin. And God opened doors for me. He opened doors for me to find my Lord Jesus. Adon Yeshua HaMashiach. And I got saved. Praise God. I wasn't ready before. I just realized I hadn't been through the fire. But I am reborn. Because Adon Yeshua HaMashiach lives in me. Yes, he does. My Lord Jesus lives in me. Yahweh ELOHIM lives in me. God is in me. I'm free of the prison of this world. I'm still me. The thing was, I was always me. I just know who I am now. I'm a servant of Adon Yeshua HaMashiach, my Lord Jesus Christ. I worship the Lord my God, and only the Lord my God. Yahweh ELOHIM. And I am free. I am free.